Welcome to the expert-led sessions. Today, we are looking at approaches to refugee management, how we can enhance service delivery and integration in Uganda. Uganda is well known as one of the most progressive refugee-hosting countries, with a model that emphasizes dignity, self-reliance, and inclusion. At the center of this effort is the Department of Refugees in the Office of the Prime Minister. I'm honored today to be joined by the Commissioner for Refugees, a champion of humane and sustainable solutions in displacement contexts. You are welcome, Commissioner Patrick Okello, Commissioner Refugees in the Office of the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Onesmus. My pleasure to be here. And greetings to all viewers.
We want to go now to the fundamental question of today, to draw a foundation for our discussion. Uganda's refugee policy is widely celebrated. As a country, Uganda is hosting more than 1.6 million refugees. And this policy of Uganda is not only celebrated for its openness, but also for its emphasis on coordinated and inclusive service delivery. Commissioner, could you walk us through how the Department of Refugees coordinates with humanitarian and development partners to ensure comprehensive service delivery to both the refugees and the host community?
Thank you very much. First of all, the Department of Refugees is established by an Act of Parliament under the Refugee Act of 2006. This law provides for the staff for the Department of Refugees and specifically for the roles of the Commissioner for Refugees. And among my roles are one, to provide overall administration of the department, including the staff therein, providing advice to the minister and the permanent secretary on matters pertaining to refugees, providing advice to the eligibility committee and government on all matters pertaining to refugees. I am also responsible for protection of refugees, for registration of refugees, the oversight roles. And of course, in doing this, I work with a team of officers under the department. Regarding how we coordinate with other agencies and institutions that are involved in the management of refugees, we have several fora under which we coordinate. The first one is the interagency meetings, where I am a co-chair together with the country representative, UNHCR, and the commissioner for local government inspection in the Ministry of Local Government. That is one layer of coordination. We also coordinate through the comprehensive response framework. We have the TRRF secretariats, which help us to coordinate partners who are also involved in the response. And in the CRRF, we are also represented as a department. I sit there. Then, of course, at a higher level, we have the steering committee, which is chaired by the minister responsible for refugees. And this another organ where some coordination is done. And this one really at policy level. Above that, we have the National Partnership Forum, which is chaired by the Prime Minister. Our ministers, the Minister and the Minister of State are members, and the Commissioner is also a member. So these are the organs through which we coordinate. But in addition to that, we have regular meetings with partners and other implementers. Through these regular coordination meetings, we also look into the coordination aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. You bring out very well the aspect of coordination. And that, of course, drives us, because if there is coordination, there is likely to be self-reliance, there is likely to be integration. And Uganda's refugee policy is distinct in that it promotes self-reliance and integration right from the onset. What are these specific strategies and frameworks that are currently in place to support the socio-economic inclusion of refugees into Uganda's national systems, including education, health, the economy, and other aspects?
Uganda has what we call the open door policy, and it's the best refugee policy world over. Under the open door policy, the refugees stay in settlements and not in camps, as is the practice in other countries. The refugees are given land. The refugees are given travel documents. They are given identification certificates. And the refugees are allowed to enjoy services such as education services, health services, like any other citizen. In addition to this, refugees are also allowed to participate in business, in self-employment, in agricultural activities, and all these contribute greatly toward self-reliance. In fact, following the recent budget cut, we have now invested heavily in self-reliance projects where refugees can be able to survive on their own without relying entirely on the food ratio from the World Food Program. For instance, in Achivale, we have now started block farming. And in this block farming, the refugees are given pieces of land to engage in commercial, semi-commercial agriculture. All this is intended in order to promote productivity and also to increase the level of production so that the refugees can become self-reliant. To crown it all, our policies, which are associated with the open door refugee policy, are all geared towards promoting self-reliance of refugees because we create a conducive environment for refugees to become very productive and self-reliant.
Thank you so much. It is amazing how the policy is designed and in place relate to the fundamental outcomes that are occurring, like you have addressed. But however, whereas we have a progressive refugee, protection, there of course are a number of challenges. Even when we have good policies, we recognize that the challenges are complex, from funding shortfalls to pressures on host communities. We would want to know what these challenges mean to us as policymakers that we are facing in refugee management, especially in the growing numbers, and how the department is adapting to ensuring quality service delivery in the refugee communities and also the host communities.
In fact, we are grappling with a number of challenges, as I've already attested to them. On our part, what we are now doing is to scale down on certain consumptive areas. We have had to scale down on fuel expenditure in order to cope up with the current financial strain. We are also encouraging the refugees to participate in productive activities so that they can fend for themselves, because we can no longer provide food. We are also reaching out to other non-traditional sources of funding to come in to bridge the gaps that are now existing. In fact, the situation has become so bad that in order to cope, we have had to cut down on the number of staff. As I speak now, we have had to cut short some staff contracts because with the reduction in funding, could no longer sustain a huge starting level. So we have had to reduce on the staff in order to fit within the little resources that we have. In fact, in addition to this, we have also reduced on our field technical support activities because we can no longer afford to do so. Some of our activities we have had to undertake them online so that we fit within the constrained resource envelope. And of course, on the part of the refugees, we have continued to engage with them to tell them that all is not as it was, and therefore they should accept to live within the minimum that can be provided. Normally refugees have a lot of expectations. When they come in, they want food, they want water, they want everything. So we are really engaging more with them to educate them that we can no longer afford what we were previously providing, and encouraging them really to work for themselves.
So you speak of resource constraints. When it comes to sustainability, that is one of the major problems. But also we have other major problems. We have the climate crisis, we have urbanization, and the primary delivery of services, which is the local government, must be engaged. How is the local government managing integration sustainably?
Of course, now the local governments have had to share the resources they have with the refugees. In all our interventions, we are now involving the local governments in the protection services. We're involving them in the management of environment, also in the management of infrastructural programs that target refugees. And in so doing, we are not only we are encouraging the local governments in all the projects they undertake, especially where you have the refugee host local governments, to target both the refugees and the host communities. So the local governments are now sharing the resources they have to cater even for the refugees. In other words, in our planning platforms, we're encouraging the local governments to plan for the refugees as well. And this is doing quite well. And even in our programs that we undertake as OPM targeting refugees, we have also included in the implementation the local governments to play a critical role. This is very evident in programs like DOCAD, which have been rated as one of the most successful World Bank funded projects so far. So the local governments are part.
When we speak to planning and how integration has been done at the local government level, we would want to know how far the NDP forecast on success. What story does it tell us on the integration of refugees?
In NDP4, the refugee programs are deeply captured, including the strategies for realizing them. And in the center of this are 1, the Office of the Prime Minister, and 2, the local governments. And this is being done through 2 interventions, the localization strategy and the transition strategy. These 2 involve the local governments in ensuring that they are fully integrated in the implementation of programs that involve refugees. So we have those instruments.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, for these insightful reflections. I would want to invite you to give us your closing statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I want to say that Uganda is the largest refugee host country in Africa, with a current refugee population of 1,920,100 123 refugees. And it is the fourth largest refugee hosting country in the world. Our open door policy of refugees is the best and next to none in the world. And so far, our efforts are bearing fruits. And the refugees we admit are refugees from mainly the IGAD region and the East African community. My appeal to everybody is that we should work for peace. Peace in the IGAD region, peace within the East African community, so that the persons who are currently being hosted by Uganda as refugees can go back to their home countries of origin to develop them. But feel free to come back as visitors. We need to address the challenge of refugees once and for all. This is a global challenge and calls for action from everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner, Refugees in the Office of the Prime Minister, Republic of Uganda. The discussion today reminds us that refugee management is not only about emergency response, but is also about long-term vision, equity, and resilience. I want to thank the Commissioner for joining us today to speak to one of the most pressing issues of our time. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Thank you very much, Mr.